Hello friends, welcome to Star Explainer. Tales of Herding Gods Part 317 and 318 explains based on novel. So let's start explanation. The surging land suddenly regained calmness and the Imperial Gate divine knife that was stabbed in the ground sliced open the ground towards the west. Heavenly King Qin Mu grabbed the handle of the knife and tried to stabilize the divine knife. However, the power under the ground was extremely powerful and as a result, he was also dragged forward by his knife towards the west. Imperial Gate divine knife was incomparably sharp, and when it passed by a mountain, the huge mountain was suddenly sliced vertically in half. Farmer saw this situation and gave a shout. He punched on the ground and heard cracks coming from below as though something was being broken into sections. Qin Mu was finally able to pull out Imperial Gate divine knife, and when he pulled out his knife, his body transformed into a goat-head god. He grew a pair of horns and swung his knife down again. He gave it his all when he swung this knife, and even though he had only slashed once, countless knife lights tunneled underground. His knife skills were very intricate, and he was the highest achievement in the knife path during Founding Emperor era. Otherwise, Founding Emperor wouldn't have got him to wield his knife to slash earth count. When this knife slashed down, the surface of the ground cracked continuously, and knife lights could faintly be seen shuttling to and fro. There were also huge roots flailing in the knife lights, and the land, which was bulging up, quickly moved to the west. Soon, mountains far away trembled like waves and moved away at an extremely fast speed. Puddles of blood formed swamps on the ground, and there was still sunlight rising from the lake. Qin Mu pulled out his knife and carried the huge knife on his shoulder. He asked puzzledly, "I had clearly hit her, but why couldn't Imperial Gate divine knife take away her soul? When you slash earth count, did you manage to take away his soul?" Behind him, Farmer's voice rang out. "Come on, let's return to the capital city." Qin Mu turned around and returned to the capital city with him. Inside the manor of the capital city, Dieu and Scholar worked together to get rid of Mother Earth's blessing. However, Qin Mu's mind was also muddled and confused. He hugged the wall and puked without anything coming out. Only after a while was he back to normal, but his face was still slightly pale. The few heavenly teachers and heavenly kings looked at one another in dismay. "We had only broken Mother Earth's blessing and Qin Mu got tormented like this. There are hundreds of blessings behind Celestial Venerable Yu's head, and his only on spirit embryo realm. How is he going to endure it?" Qin Mu shook his head, but the world was still spinning. He didn't have much feeling when Saint Woodcutter plucked Earth Eon Dao fruit, and that was because the fruit was connected to his soul. Saint Woodcutter had just struck his soul into Yudu, and cut off the connection between him and fruit, causing it to automatically drop. However, Mother Earth's blessing was different. This kind of blessing was more complicated, and it could absorb the power of the land to recover continuously. Also, it was connected with his corporeal body, so even if Qin Mu died, the blessing would still exist. The method which Scholar and Dieu used was the most barbaric method, by breaking every single one of the runes which formed Mother Earth's blessing. During these few days, they had completely comprehended all of these runes and each of them thought of their own solution. As they were solving, these vibrations bombarded Qin Mu's corporeal body and primordial spirit, causing him to be extremely uncomfortable. "Celestial Venerable, you can't endure this." Saint Woodcutter shook his head and said, "If we are to get rid of those blessings, we need strong practitioners on Emperor's throne realm to protect his primordial spirit and corporeal body. We also have to be on guard in case the power of the ancient gods come attacking. Celestial Venerable Yu's responsibility is enormous. His revival is definitely no secret to the ancient gods that had blessed him. If we were to break the blessings, not only Mother Earth will be lord over, we need to end this fast. We need to wipe out these blessings before these ancient gods react." Scholar shook her head. "My wisdom is lacking. I can't completely get rid of the blessings behind his head." Dieu also shook her head. These blessings are vast. I can easily break the blessings of the four deities and Heaven Duke, however, there are still some blessings that I don't understand. Sakra, farmer, and fisherman also shook their heads. Saint Woodcutter said, in that case, I shall solve it along with my little disciple. You guys shall protect us from any attack from the ancient gods. Bai Gui, come over. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor heard him and came over. Teacher. Saint Woodcutter said, both of us shall work together and break the blessings behind Celestial Venerable Yu's head. Are you confident? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor pondered for a moment. Celestial Emperor's blessing will be slightly difficult. Celestial Emperor's blessing is complicated and contains many kinds of great Tao. It will take some time to solve it. This is my first time seeing such a marvelous great Tao. However, if I work together with teacher, I am 80 to 90% confident. Woodcutter said, I shall work together with Bai Gui, first Heavenly King, guard Celestial Venerable Yu's corporeal body and primordial spirit to protect him from the attacks of the ancient gods. Everyone nodded in acknowledgement. Dieu called Celestial Venerable Yu over and used her magic power to protect his corporeal body and soul. She nodded her head gently in acknowledgement. Woodcutter said, Bai Gui, which blessing of the ancient gods do you think we should break first? First break Mother Earth, then break Heaven Duke and Earth Count before touching Celestial Emperor. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said, Mother Earth is already dead, and she had retreated in defeat just now. Her blessing is the easiest to break. Next, we shall break Heaven Duke and Earth Count. Both ancient gods know second senior brother, so they won't stop us, or alarm other ancient gods. Next, we will break Celestial Emperor. Second senior brother told me Celestial Emperor is already dead. So even though breaking his blessing would be difficult, he won't dare to appear. After this, we will break Celestial Empress and her sister, four deities, and then the rest of the gods. Saint Woodcutter asked, will there be ancient gods interfering and stopping us? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor shook his head and said, the crux lies in Celestial Empress and the four deities. If the speed to break the blessing of these 6 ancient gods is fast enough, we can make the extraterritorial celestial heavens have no time to react. As for the remaining ancient gods, they are not much of a problem and I can break them easily. We need to be fast and catch them off guard so no gods can capture our location, preventing them from descending. Saint Woodcutter's eyes became brighter and brighter. He smiled and said, I have 3 disciples, the one who has received my true teachings is only you. Qin Mu snorted and was rather displeased. What true teaching? Teacher, you never allow me to listen when you are teaching junior brother. You never taught me before, so where are the true teachings from? Saint Woodcutter ignored him. Both of them immediately made their move to walk around Celestial Venerable Yu. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor pulled out his sword while Saint Woodcutter took down his axe. The sword moved like the lightning and the axe moved like the wind. Every move was extremely intricate and caused everyone to exclaim in admiration. Jiang Bai Gui is very similar to Woodcutter. Farmer looked and whispered to Scholar, however, his aptitude seems to be higher than Woodcutter. His cultivation is already close to Woodcutter. Scholar nodded her head gently, because Big Heavenly Teacher was too focused on too many things, his cultivation has halted as a result. His vitality is limited and by holding up founding emperor's reform by himself, he had delayed his cultivation. On the other hand, for Jiang Bai Gui to still be able to improve at such a godly speed after learning most of his knowledge, he is indeed not normal. Farmer looked at Qin Mu, who was rather displeased at the side, and asked softly, why doesn't Woodcutter teach Qin Mu that kid? That kid is angry now, his face is now even longer than your donkey. Scholar shook her head. I don't know about this. However, what Qin Mu had learned is also very messy, and even though they are messy, they are all very skilled. it's truly not bad at all. Especially his sword skills, even I can't block them. I know why Big Brother doesn't teach him. Fisherman walked over and said with a low voice, I've interacted with this kid for a period of them and I admire him very much. Thus I ask Big Brother why don't he teach Qin Mu. He had a very weird expression back then and said this to me. Among his 3 disciples, he knew what he should teach to his big disciple and little disciple. Only his second disciple, he has no idea what to teach, so he decides not to teach anything, letting him grow on his own. Scholar didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She asked the old farmer, I see his martial Tao isn't weak, did you teach him that? Farmer snorted and shook his head. I never did. Back then, when I threw woodcutter into the ditch to soak, this kid came searching and he was very haughty. He said he could solve the problem of the people in bullfighting world having no divine bridge, and he wanted to use that to exchange for woodcutter. I allowed him to barge through bullfighting palace, and that was how he had comprehended martial Tao. I didn't teach him anything. Never would I thought that this kid had actually solved it. Scholar was stunned and looked at Qin Mu. Qin Mu was still pulling a long face and looked rather unhappy. Having such a disciple, I don't know if Wen Tiange is lucky or unlucky. She thought to herself. After a short while, Woodcutter and Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor broke Mother Earth's blessing and both of them immediately started on Heaven Duke's blessing. Their speed was fast and they dealt with Earth Count's blessing next. The few heavenly teachers and heavenly kings wore weird expressions on their faces as they looked. Even Dieu was frowning greatly. Both of them were breaking through the blessings way too fast. If it was her, she couldn't have done it at such a fast speed. To reach such a fast speed, one would require to have extremely high intelligence and terrifying deduction ability. Furthermore, they have to complement each other flawlessly without making a single mistake. Woodcutter and Imperial Preceptor didn't practice beforehand and had just worked on it directly, yet their cooperation was truly flawless. Soon, these two people finally started to deal with Celestial Emperor's blessing. This was the hardest blessing and both of their speed slowed down. Every sword, every axe, seemed to be extremely slow and heavy. They moved slowly and they were lifting something light, as though it was heavy. The time taken for every strike became longer and longer, while their sweat started to vaporize from their body into steam. Their qi and blood were also becoming more and more vigorous. After 2 days, beads of blood seeped out of Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's skin, while Woodcutter also had 2 streaks of blood rolling down his eyes. His hair had turned white. Celestial Emperor's blessing was simply too strong, and it had forced them to raise their wisdom to the limits. Their brains were operating at an astonishing speed, and this was still after they had analyzed the marvels of the runes in Celestial Emperor's blessing. If they were completely clueless, they wouldn't have been able to make a move. Another 2 days later, Woodcutter's breath became exhausted, and since Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was much younger, he had more and more comprehension when breaking Celestial Emperor's blessing, and thus his qi and blood increased instead of decreasing. Finally, both of them were finally able to break the halo formed from Celestial Emperor's blessing. Blood leaked out from the corner of Woodcutter's mouth, and he moved back. Bai Gui, can you settle the rest of the blessings on your own? I can try. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor roared, and his body suddenly increased in speed. He transformed into a series of afterimages, and at this moment, it was as if there was countless Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor around Celestial Venerable Yu. Every Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was executing different sword move to stab at the halo behind Celestial Venerable Yu's head, causing all kinds of dazzling and colorful light to burst forth. Dieu, scholar, farmer became nervous. When they were breaking the blessing earlier, Heaven Duke and Earth Count wouldn't stop them while Mother Earth and Celestial Emperor were dead. Now only Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was left, and the gods of the remaining blessings could still very well be alive. Suddenly, Celestial Empress's blessing extinguished with a pop, and a few breaths later, Celestial Empress Sister's blessing also extinguished. Next, the blessings of the four deities dimmed and were extinguished as well. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's speed grew faster and faster. His apparitions also grew more and more, forcing everyone back to give him a larger space to use. The halo behind Celestial Venerable Yu's head decreased, and the speed where the blessings were extinguished was growing faster and faster. Everyone was dazzled and they exclaimed to themselves in admiration, "You are helping your little disciple to succeed." Scholar whispered, "You aren't so weak that you will cough up blood from exhaustion." Saint Woodcutter revealed a smile. "I'm already old and I'm the heavenly teacher of founding emperor. I can't keep helping eternal peace. A teacher has to teach to solve doubts. Now that I've taught and solved the doubts, only then am I truly a teacher." Scholar pouted at Qin Mu and asked softly, "So what about that disciple of yours? Have you taught him to solve his doubts?" Saint Woodcutter's head was huge and he said at a loss, "I don't know what I can teach him, or how I should teach him. He's like a Celestial Venerable Yu. After learning the basics, he can create something that can astound you and scare you half to death. I don't dare to teach him." Finally, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor finally broke all the blessing and kept his sword behind his back. He shut his eyes to focus, and sank into a kind of marvelous realm. Breaking the ancient god's blessing this time had allowed him to gain much, allowing him to enter a profound comprehension that was even more profound. This was the result of Woodcutter's help. Woodcutter had guided him into a battle of wits with the ancient gods, the great Tao of heaven and earth, and Woodcutter himself. Later, Woodcutter withdrew and allowed Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor to bring out his intellect, and as a result, there was this comprehension of Tao. This could be Jiang Baigui's most crucial comprehension in his life, the one that will determine his success in the future. No one disturbed him and they all left. When Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, it was already a month later. He looked around and Qin Mu's manor was already completed. Everyone had left long ago, and when he raised their head, he saw a huge primordial tree had enveloped the entire capital city. Qin Mu had gone to Surging River with numerous human emperors and Tao Master. Gong Sun Yang, who was under the tree, told him, "He told me to tell Imperial Preceptor not to worry, and Imperial Preceptor can prepare the technique to seal Southern Heavenly Gate as soon as possible." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor stared blankly and said with a smile, "Why didn't you go with him? I'm used to being rooted here." That girl smiled. Qin Mu sat on the back of the dragon Qilin and hurried on the way with the numerous human emperors. As they crossed the majestic mountains and rivers which calmed their nerves, he suddenly saw a black boar and was delighted. He hurriedly shouted, "Catch that demon boar." The water Qilin hurriedly sprinted over and caught that black demon boar. Qin Mu took out the imperial edict of Celestial Emperor and said with a smile, "I was just thinking of how to get rid of this Celestial Emperor's blessing." After a moment, he opened up the imperial edict at the muddle-headed black demon boar. After a moment, Qin Mu tossed the imperial edict aside and left with the rest. "Celestial Venerable Mu, we finally meet." An incomparably ancient consciousness fluctuated silently and appeared in the mind of the black demon boar. Snort, snort. That black demon boar cried out in astonishment. Celestial Venerable Mu is actually so aloof. Celestial Emperor's cryptic consciousness waves came over and said indistinctly, "How many years has it been since I've conferred you the title of Celestial Venerable Mu? Yet you had resisted until now to open up my imperial edict. Your endurance is truly remarkable. You should have met Yang Qiling, right? She has reported to me about you. I'm truly astonished, but I'm also very gratified. As expected of the person I've taken a liking to. Your appearance has made me understand many things." Snort. That black boar was flustered and hurriedly took off into the dense forest in the mountains. Snort. Celestial Emperor's consciousness was a little taken aback, and he said with a smile, "Does Celestial Venerable Mu only want to say this word to me? I rather admire you for daring to take revenge for Celestial Venerable Yu. The reason why I had conferred you as Celestial Venerable Mu is because your divine arts had surpassed Dragon Han era, opening up the era of divine arts. Even the current Celestial Venerable Mu is still considered a Celestial Venerable, as your divine arts have no lack of strange and marvelous ideas. I've been waiting for a chance to clean up the rebels and traitors. You are the one who had revived Goddess of Heavenly Yin, right? Mother Earth went to find you as also because she wanted you to revive her, am I right? The black wild boar crashed here and there with his snout and tusks, but he couldn't break free of that voice in his mind. Not long later, this demon boar found his nest and there were numerous piglets and sows living in the nest. Suddenly, that voice rang out again. You can escape from me. I need to you host a resurrection for me. I've died in Yuanju, and my 3 souls are scattered in all parts of Yuanju. It isn't too troublesome for you to host this resurrection for me. Snort, 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 snort. Celestial Venerable Mu, you are asking for it. You most probably don't know what fear is. I can show you true terror. Have you felt the fear? Are you still going to be aloof to me? Snort, snort. You really want me to force you? By cooperating with me, I will allow you to reach the highest official position and enjoy endless riches. I will turn you into the one and only Celestial Venerable. Yet you are so arrogant and haughty. I will make you regret this. Snort. Qin Mu sat on the head of the dragon Qilin and continued to explain to the human emperors on how to sense the power of the celestial river. Human Emperor Qi Kang and Human Emperor Yi Shan were dispirited and listless as they drank medicine and listened. The other human emperors had made their decision to sabotage these two without any qualms at all. They got first ancestor Human Emperor to get rid of their divine bridge divine treasure. First ancestor was much gentler than martial arts heavenly teacher, and even so, they were still heavily injured. After all, their corporeal bodies were as strong as Qin Mu, and when their divine bridges were destroyed, their vitality was also damaged. Lucky for them, Qin Mu was right beside so he could treat them anytime. Even though the dragon Qilin's speed was extremely fast, he still needed to spend a few months to reach Surging River. Looking at a majestic mountain in front, Qin Mu looked out 3,000 miles and saw the surroundings of the mountain pillar were very vast. The mountain pillar pierced straight into the Sea of Clouds, and so the Sea of Clouds was at the waist of the mountain. The lightning layer was also at the waist of the mountain. One mountain actually had 4 seasons: white snow, blazing sun, flying river hanging on the mountain, and lakes and seas that were like sapphires adorned on the mountain. Looking upwards more, he could faintly see that this mountain had already pierced through the fake sky of Eternal Peace Empire, holding up the sky high up. The sky of Eternal Peace was a fake sky. It was only a formation, and the sky was 100,000 miles high and 1,000 yards thick. The sun, moon, and stars were all formations in the formation diagram. This mountain was too high, and as a result, it had caused the sun, moon, and stars to become distorted and strange when they orbited over here. Especially when the sun moved to this place, with the warped sky, the sun was also stretched as though it was wrinkled. Qin Mu looked at the wrinkled sun in the sky and frowned. He pulled back his gaze and sighed to himself. Not trying to even make it look realistic. Those gods maintaining the fake sky has truly lost their standards. They would still try their best to maintain the orbit of the sun and the moon, but now they just don't care anymore. He looked at the huge mountains and huge rivers that had suddenly appeared in Eternal Peace Empire, and he sighed ruefully. He was originally very familiar with Eternal Peace's geography, but now everything seemed so unfamiliar. Now, Eternal peace was already broken up into pieces, and the places that were separated were now scattered among the towering mountains. Other than that, he even saw numerous ancient ruins that were filled with the air of danger. It was as though some terrifying monster was hiding there. There were also caves among these mountains, and there were even row upon row of luxurious palaces. Some places even had large-scale community of constructions. When they passed by some huge swamps and huge rivers, they would even encounter extremely strong half-gods popping out from somewhere with overflowing aura that distorted the sky, causing exceptionally beautiful apparitions to appear. Some controlled water, some controlled fire, but they didn't make a move. They just watched from afar. First ancestor human emperor had followed them, and every time this situation happened, celestial palaces would appear behind him, and his primordial spirit would standing on the city tower of Jade capital city. Every time this happens, those half-gods would silently retreat. Half a month later, Qin Mu and the rest came to Bazhu city. As Eternal Peace Empire's economy developed, Bazhu city had undergone numerous expansion, so it was extremely vast. However, after looking at the scene of Primordial Realm, Qin Mu felt that Bazhu city was too small. It was merely a stone in an ocean in the current Eternal Peace Empire. It was insignificant. In the city, two gods stood high above in the clock towers. One was left and one was right, as they shone with divine light to look in all directions, guarding against any invasion from half-gods. Qin Mu raised his head to look and saw that one of the gods was Duke Wei, so he greeted. Duke Wei remained standing on the clock tower, but his primordial spirit came down to welcome everyone. He lowered his voice and asked, "Cult Master is from the capital city. How is capital city doing?" "Capital city is doing fine." Qin Mu asked, puzzled. "Heavenly King Wei doesn't know about the news of the capital city. Didn't Imperial Preceptor forge dozens of teleportation gates?" Duke Wei sighed and said, "This teleportation formation consumes huge amount of medicinal stones every time it is activated. Who would use it unless it's in time of crisis? Now that the trade routes are basically cut off, if we had to send someone to the capital city, divine arts practitioners would have to take 1 to 2 years to travel to and fro for news. Gods also can't leave, thus the news from the capital city is very hard to reach here. In these 2 years, divine arts practitioners have been searching for people lost outside, protecting them to Bazhu. There are numerous people injured, and we don't have extra hands to go to the capital city for news." Qin Mu frowned and he looked at the people in the city. Their clothes were all tattered and they all looked emaciated. "We have opened up several fields outside the city, and as long as we tide through this period, not many people will die once the ration is handed down." Duke Wei said, "However, there are half-gods coming out these few days and they had told us to send up offerings." Qin Mu frowned. "Offerings? Offerings to who?" "Offerings to half-gods." Duke Wei said, "Otherwise, they will descend disaster on us. There are a few strong existences among the half-gods, and they had built a god country on the mountain. They requested us to give offerings and surrender to become their people." Qin Mu said, "The emperor currently doesn't have the energy or the manpower, so we can only drag things out. Heavenly King Wei can temporarily give them offerings and wait until the power of the emperor reaches here before making another decision." "The offerings are virgin boys and girls," Duke Wei suddenly said. Qin Mu didn't say another word. After a moment, he took out a small case and taught Duke Wei how to use it. "This is God Execution Knife of Crimson Light Era. Heavenly King can borrow this divine knife to tide over this period of time first. This divine knife will have to drink blood the moment it's out of its sheath, so be utterly careful when using it." They left Bazhu city. Qin Mu turned around to look at Bazhu in the night scenery and he sighed. There was only God Execution Mysterious Knife, but there were numerous cities. He could protect Bazhu with God Execution Mysterious Knife, but he couldn't protect the other cities. How should eternal peace resolve the current crisis? He had also sunk into deep thoughts. The people of Eternal Peace Empire were worrying about how to solve the current crisis. Now, Mother Earth still has not made a move, and it was only those half-gods that were scattered throughout the world. Just them was enough to sink Eternal Peace Empire into a crisis. Several days later, they came to Heavenly Saint Academy, and there were numerous towns around Heavenly Saint Academy. The disciples of the Academy had got many people to immigrate over. The Academy was still fine. Apothecary had poisoned a half-god to death, and he was currently researching the body structure of the half-god. That half-god was very strong, and after he died, there was still a remaining aura, and his corporeal body piled up like a mountain. Moha moha moha. A bunch of flood dragons cried out and swayed their heads and tails as they waited to eat meat. It's poisoned. The scholars chased them away. Mua, you don't have to be concerned about Heavenly Saint Academy's safety. The half-gods in the surroundings are basically wiped out. Those they aren't have moved away. Apothecary wiped the blood off his hands and said to everyone, we have planted many medicinal fields, so we have no need to worry about our herbs. Our teleportation formation can also be opened to establish access to the capital city. Our teleportation gate can also contact the other academies to support one another, so there's no need to worry. You can head to Surging River. Do you need to use the teleportation formation? There's no need. Save the medicinal stones. Qin Mu bade farewell to him and hurried on the journey with the human emperors. Another 6 to 7 days later, they came to Surging River Academy of Lizhu Prefecture. He paid respects to Yu Yuan Chuyu and Su Yunqing. Only then did Qin Mu came to the side of Surging River, and looking out to the other side, the surface of the river was 1,000 miles. Divine Mountains stood tall like a forest on both sides of the Divine Mountains, and it was truly majestic. This wasn't the widest place in Surging River. The widest place in Surging River is about 5,000 miles. Yu Yuan Chuyu has already cultivated to her celestial palace, and she said to Qin Mu, there are numerous half-gods in Surging River, and all kinds of Dragon King manor with countless treasures. Dragon Rearing Sovereign even got injured a while ago, and it seemed that he was being beaten by the half-gods. He came to seek help here, and it was Su Yunqing that had treated him. Qin Mu was stunned and said, Dragon Rearing Sovereign isn't having it easy too. Is that mountain on the opposite shore 100 Years Mountain? He pointed at the opposite shore, and there was a majestic mountain that could be seen clearly even at 1,000 miles away. It was extraordinary and majestic. No. Yu Yuan Chuyu said, 100 Years Mountain is beside Deer County, just a small mound which can't be seen from here. That mountain had suddenly popped out, and there are numerous half-gods on the mountain. Bai Shi fought them to protect Deer County. Qin Mu scratched his head and said, Bai Shi has suffered. I shall take down that mountain in the next few days, and change the name to 100 Years Mountain. I'll make him the mountain god there. Right at this moment, waves surged on the surface of Surging River, and Dragon Rearing Sovereign's huge head break through the surface. When he saw Qin Mu, he choked on his tears and said, Cult Master Qin, you are finally here. I don't want to be this Dragon King anymore. Can we change the Pact of Earth count? Qin Mu said with a smile, all right. How about changing you to be Celestial River Dragon King? Celestial River Dragon King. Dragon Rearing Sovereign's heart stirred and he asked, how is the treatment of Celestial River Dragon King like? Qin Mu said, the same treatment as before, but the underwater treasures inside Celestial River can't belong to you. Dragon Rearing Sovereign asked carefully, how wide and how long is this so-called Celestial River? My lord, it's not that I don't believe you, it's just that there's God Bai Shi with his 100 Years Mountains as an example. My dragon body is rather huge, and an ordinary river of 3 to 5 miles cannot fit me. Qin Mu said with a smile, Celestial River is definitely wide, it's no smaller than the current surging river. There's also plenty of aquatic life, so you don't have to worry about your food. Dragon-rearing sovereign was delighted, but he still wasn't at ease. If I can be Celestial River Dragon King, it would be for the best, however, I always afraid you will trick me. God by Shi and his 100 Years Mountains. Qin Mu asked unhappily, are you going to do it or not? Do. Dragon-rearing sovereign immediately made his decision and said with a smile, I will rather be Celestial River Dragon King than stay here to be bullied by the half-gods daily, at least I can be the king there. However, my lord, how do we erase the Pact of Earth count? There's no need to erase the Pact of Earth count, you just need sign one more Pact of Little Earth count and that will do. Qin Mu taught him how to make the pact and dragon-rearing sovereign did as he said. Once the pact was made, Qin Mu ignored him and got Human Emperor Qi Kang and Human Emperor Yi Shan to start to comprehend the power of Celestial River, so they could mold the seventh divine treasure. Dragon-rearing sovereign's huge head popped out of surging river, and he waited for a moment. When he saw Qin Mu hurrying here and there instead of telling him where Celestial River was, he asked impatiently with a smile, my lord, where is Celestial River? Qin Mu continued to ignore him. However, the dragon Qilin was kind and said, Dragon-rearing sovereign, surging river is Celestial River, you are located right in Celestial River. Dragon-rearing sovereign was stunned and he still didn't understand. The dragon Qilin shook his head and said, Oh you are the founder of dragon-rearing scripture, after all, but you are like a blank piece of paper when dealing with humans. Surging River is Celestial River. When Cult Master saw Surging River transforming into Celestial River, he felt he had suffered losses by conferring you as Surging River Dragon King since all the underwater treasures belong to you. There are countless treasures sank over the eras, all kinds of dragon palaces and dragon manors, and also countless half-gods in the water. Cult Master felt the heartache for over a year, but he couldn't take back the Pact of Earth count. Dragon-rearing sovereign was muddled and his mind was blank. The water Qilin beside also had a pitiful look on his face as he said to this Dragon King. Brother Pai's master is so scheming. I mean wise and brilliant. The reason why he didn't cancel the pact with you was because Surging River is Celestial River, there was no need to cancel. As for the Pact of Little Earth count, it is to take back the treasures in Celestial River. Little Earth count is truly vicious. Dragon-rearing sovereign still had a blank look on his face. Qin Mu hurriedly checked on the progress of the two human emperors and checked if they could sense the power of Celestial River. This was of utmost importance. The human emperors were all talents. They were strong practitioners that had been at the top of the world for several hundred years. If they couldn't sense the power of Celestial River, it would be even harder for the other divine arts practitioners. Luckily, Human Emperor Qi Kang and Human Emperor Yi Shan quickly sensed the power of Celestial River, only then did he let out a sigh of relief. Since Grand Master and Great Grand Master can sense the power of Celestial River, opening up Celestial River divine treasure is something that's going to happen sooner or later. However, it's still going to be difficult for other divine arts practitioners to cultivate to their level. The number of people who can open up Celestial River divine treasure isn't going to be much. Qin Mu calculated, and with the current educational standard of eternal peace, there should be tens of thousands of divine arts practitioners with a foundation that was solid enough and aptitude that was high enough. Tens of thousands of people were already a lot, but compared to the population of eternal peace, it was still too little. For Celestial River divine treasure to completely replace Divine Bridge divine treasure, it would probably have to take several hundred to several thousand years. This required the strong practitioners, who had opened up Celestial River divine treasure, to produce offsprings, and also more future divine arts practitioners, to open up Celestial River divine treasure. Furthermore, eternal peace's cultivation techniques also had to improve. The techniques in the past were all cultivated according to divine treasure, and the path they were going to take from now onwards had to go according to celestial river divine treasure. Changing the techniques is going to be an immense project. Qin Mu sighed ruefully in his heart. There were simply too many techniques in eternal peace. Changing all of these techniques required talents with outstanding intelligence. Celestial River Divine Treasure had connected the cultivation system of divine treasures and cultivation system of the Celestial Palace into one. Divine arts practitioners don't know much about the Celestial Palace, while gods have experience with the cultivation of celestial palaces. Thus the gods' help was still needed in order to change the techniques. In the dozens and even several hundred years to come, great masters that would shake the world would definitely be born. The sky gradually darkened and Qin Mu's gaze twinkled in the darkness. Looking at the river surface, his gaze seemed to be slightly deep. However, how long can eternal peace last? Time doesn't wait for us. Suddenly, light came from the river and it became brighter and brighter as though it was day underwater. Dragon-rearing sovereign hurriedly flew up and transformed into a dragon-headed god. He looked nervously at the light underwater. Qin Mu called him over and asked, "What's that thing in surging river?" "Ghost ship." The scales on dragon-rearing sovereign's body stood up, and every scale was incomparably sharp. He foamed at his mouth and said, "Ghost ship. That ship has appeared once again." Qin Mu was stunned and he asked, "Ghost ship?" Everyone flew to the side of surging river and looked down, only to see an incomparably ancient and huge ship slowly rising up from underwater. Dense black gas shrouded the ship as though they were chains. This ship was extremely huge, and could be compared to huge artifacts like sun ship and moon ship. It sailed slowly in the water, and the light emitted seemed to be from the lanterns on the ship. The entire ancient battleship was submerged in the water, yet the lanterns weren't extinguished. This made everyone clicked their tongues in wonder. That ship sailed past a dragon palace, and also lighted up the dragon palace. Everyone could faintly see a few half-gods swimming out of the palace, and raising their heads to look at the weird ship. Yu and Chuyu said, "I've seen this ship with Chancellor Su a few times and we always see it at night, however, we didn't go up to check." Ever since Surging River had become wider, numerous half-gods have appeared and people of Lizhu Prefecture are displaced. People have no way of getting by and handling government affairs is already putting me under a lot of pressure. Dragon-rearing sovereign revealed a look of fear, and he said with a trembling voice, "Magistrate, don't have the time to investigate, but since I live here, I have encountered this ghost ship many more times than magistrate. After Surging River became wide, this ship had appeared, but I didn't dare to go over. However, numerous half-gods in the water went to investigate. They were much stronger than us, but they never returned once they got on the ship. I heard someone said they saw them on the ship, and that they had transformed into white bones. My lord, after Surging River transformed into Celestial River, peculiar incidents keep happening about the Celestial River Dragon King." Qin Mu looked underwater, and he saw that ancient battleship swimming underwater. There were figures flickering on the ship, as though thousands of soldiers and cavalries were guarding this ship. However, he couldn't see the faces of these people. Celestial River is linked to great ruins, and its history is too ancient. There are too many things buried here. He didn't plan to investigate it, as this ghost ship was only one of the many peculiarities in Celestial River. There was no need to put himself in danger. Right at this moment, he saw the flag streaking through the river surface. Water flowed down from the tattered flag, and after the water had flowed down, the wind blew against the flag, and caused the blood-stained flag to flutter. In the sky, the moon was like a withered flower, but there was still moonlight shining down. Qin Mu raised his head to stare at the weird moon. He frowned and looked as the moonlight shone down. He could faintly see the words Feathered Forest on the flag. This ship is called Feathered Forest. Qin Mu said with a smile, a ship with a name, its origin shouldn't be ordinary. Suddenly he was stunned. He hurriedly examined the two words Feathered Forest, and the more he looked, the more puzzled he was. The handwriting on the flag was very familiar. He quickly took out Big Senior Brother Wei Suifeng's commander's seal, and on it was also the words Feathered Forest. The words of the flag were embroidered while the words on the seal were carved, however, the handwritings were the same. Qin Mu examined the flag, before examining the commander's seal again. The puzzlement on his face grew more and more intense. First Ancestor, Village Chief, you guys remain here. I shall go on the ship and take a look. He suddenly rose into the air, and stepped on the river surface, flying towards the ghost ship. He shouted, Dragon Rearing Sovereign, you are skilled in water, follow me. Village Chief hesitated for a moment before saying to First Ancestor, stay back and look after these human emperors, don't let them fool around. I shall go after Qin Mu that brat. First Ancestor frowned and he said muffledly, why are they all instructing me? Dragon Rearing Sovereign hesitated, and didn't want to go forward. Village Chief threw him a glance, and he could only brace himself to go forward. If my lord dies on the ship, could my Pact of Earth count and Pact of Little Earth count be wiped off? Just as he thought until here, his vision suddenly turned back, and a huge devil god appeared in front of him. No licking. A dull and heavy voice sounded out from the darkness, and it seemed to be Earth Count's voice. I don't lick, I'm just looking at my food. That big-headed devil gave a sinister smile, and slowly vanished into the darkness. Dragon Rearing Sovereign's vision recovered his vision, and he shuddered while exclaiming bitterly to himself. That is Little Earth Count. Does the other voice belong to Big Earth Count? This is even more peculiar than then ghost ship. Qin Mu got close to that ghost ship which was sailing underwater. Only the flags were revealed above the water surface, and they were moving on the river surface like huge white knives slicing apart the river water. Qin Mu stood far away, and he suddenly shook his hand to stab out. A red sun instantly appeared on the river surface, as though it was a setting sun that was halfway into the river. The sword light transformed into a red light, and lighted up the surface. Sunset sword skill of my Yuyuan family. Beside the river, Yuyuan Chuyu said in delight, Brother Qin still hasn't forgotten sunset sword skill. The sword light of sunset sword skill came to the borders of the ghost ship, and it suddenly dimmed. It was erased by the black chains surrounding the ghost ship. The power was completely gone. Qin Mu frowned. Figures flashed as Village Chief and Dragon Rearing Sovereign reached. Grandpa Village Chief, why have you come? Qin Mu frowned and shook his head. I can't take care of you too. Village Chief was furious and punched him ruthlessly on his head. Take care of us. I'm here to take care of you. Rascal, after mingling outside for a few years, you have gotten quite haughty. Qin Mu hugged his head, and he had almost crashed into the river. Village Chief looked at the ghost ship on the river and he muttered, the chains outside the ship are formed by the black gas, which is extremely powerful. Follow after me and don't barge in recklessly. Qin Mu pat Dragon Rearing Sovereign, and Dragon Rearing Sovereign transformed into a huge dragon. Qin Mu stood on the dragon's head, and Dragon Rearing Sovereign dived into the water first. Village Chief hurriedly followed, and he swam quickly onto the dragon's head. He shouted, Mua, I'm here so both of you can follow me. I'm not here to follow you. This brat, you are becoming more and more daring. Suddenly, his gaze landed on Qin Mu's hand and he saw a jade pendant in Qin Mu's hand gradually becoming brighter. The light chased away the chains around the ghost ship that was formed by the black gas. It's indeed the feathered forest guards of the old celestial heavens. Qin Mu lowered his voice. Could this possibly be the time travel incident of feathered forest guards that great Sun Sovereign had said? Strange, why would the battleship of feathered forest guards come here? Shouldn't they be the feathered forest guards of Dragon Han celestial heavens a million years ago? How did Big Senior Brother have the commander's seal of feathered forest guards? In that case, could Big Senior Brother be on this ghost ship? As he said until here, he received another blow on his head, and he saw Village Chief looking at him with eyes full of vigor. Mua, what do you know? Village Chief's serious face suddenly changed into a face which couldn't conceal his curiosity. He smiled from ear to ear and asked, "What is this jade pendant in your hand? What is the time travel incident of feathered forest guards?" Qin Mu was about to reply, when he suddenly felt undercurrents surging in the water. A huge Qin swam over in the water, and on its back stood numerous strangely shaped half-gods. Village Chief had a solemn expression and said with a soft voice, "Mua, keep the pendant, don't attract any attention. Let us see where they are from." Qin Mu flipped his hand, and the jade pendant in his hand vanished. That blue-colored Qin had an extremely strong aura, and overturning the rivers and seas was no problem for it. Under the light of the ghost ship, it carried numerous half-gods to the side of this huge ship. Compared to the battleship of the feathered forest guards, this huge Qin seemed much smaller. Qin Mu wasn't unfamiliar with Qins. There were many Qins living in the Celestial River a million years ago, and those Qins were half-gods that could swim in the water and fly in the sky. During that time, the Qins in the Celestial River usually relied on ferrying people to receive some spirit pills for their daily lives. Even though many of the half-gods on the Qin's back looked human, they had different faces and grew different amounts of heads. Half-gods were the descendants of ancient gods, and the blood of ancient gods flowed in their body. Ever since Celestial Venerable Hao created the technique for half-gods to become human, half-gods could also cultivate the cultivation system of divine treasures and celestial palaces. However, half-gods couldn't completely transform into humans, so they still preserved part of their own characteristics. Only a small amount of half-gods would transform into humans completely. Those half-gods saw them, but they didn't stop. Instead, they continued to head towards this ship. "Hook snakes, stop this ship." On the back of the Qin, an elderly half-god propped himself on a scepter as he shouted, "It's ancestral Dragon King." Qin Mu was astonished. The currents around were very rapid, and suddenly huge and thick bodies appeared. Those were weird snakes that were over a few thousand yards long. The snakes didn't have scales, and instead, they had bone plates. On the bone plates were bone spikes that were like the barbs of a scorpion. These weird snakes swung their tails out to hook onto the mast of the ghost ship, trying to stop it. The bodies of the hook snakes were stretched straight, and they were immediately ripped apart. Their blood poured out. The huge Qin swam towards the ghost ship, and that elderly half-god threw out his scepter, which transformed into a divine dragon. It passed through the chains made of black gas, and stabbed into the ship. Only then did the ghost ship stop. That elderly half-god took out a mirror, and the mirror shone brightly in the river. It hung above their heads and lit up the huge Qin and the people on it. The black gas that trapped the ghost ship touched the mirror and bounced off. The chains couldn't get close to them. The huge Qin swam to the deck of the ghost ship, and suddenly transformed into a brilliant golden divine bird. Next, the divine bird folded its wings and transformed into a bird-headed god. The rest of the people also came down from the Qin's back. The forms of the Qin race were different from the rest. They had 3 forms, one was Qin, one was Peng, and the last was a bird-headed human. Village Chief felt apprehensive, and he lowered his voice and said, "That elder is very strong, I'm no match for him." The half-gods in the surroundings are also not weak. That Qin's abilities aren't ordinary either. "Mua, we need to bring First Ancestor over, only then can we explore this ghost ship." As he spoke until here, a beam of light shone down from the top of the river. That pillar of light was like moonlight shining down on the ghost ship. In the pillar of light, a small, delicate ship ferrying a one-armed man and several one-armed youths flowed down the river surface. The small ship actually sailed along the pillar of light and dove into the river, heading for that ghost ship. The one-armed man sat on the bow of the ship and looked abnormally sacred under the moonlight. Luo Wushuang. Qin Mu's heart jumped, and he looked at the small ship. Zhehuali was also on board, and he was the only one with both arms intact. At this moment, blaze shone on the river surface. Qin Mu and village chief looked up from the bottom of the river, and saw a huge fireball rolling over on the surface, vaporizing the water of the celestial river. They couldn't see too clearly in the water, but the fireball closed in and dove into the water. It transformed into a rainbow phoenix and swam in the water, heading towards the ghost ship. There was a stone coffin on the back of the rainbow phoenix, and it was very strange. Qin Mu's heart stirred. Could it be Feng Qian? If she wasn't killed by Qi Xiaoyu and is still alive, her abilities are also remarkable. In that case, why has she come here? Could it be under Mother Earth's orders? Could the stone coffin on her back be one of the stone coffins from the 9 Emperors' tomb? He felt his hair standing on end. If the stone coffin on Feng Qian's back was one of the stone coffins from the 9 Emperors' tomb, then that coffin was definitely one of the celestial emperors of the High Emperor Celestial Heavens. Why would Mother Earth view this ship with so much importance, that she would even activate the Emperor's coffin in the Imperial tomb? One had to know that when she was fighting with the other Mother Earth, she didn't mobilize an Emperor's coffin. Suddenly, a rope fell down from the sky. Qin Mu raised his head to look, and saw a rope hanging down from the wrinkled moon above eternal peace. The rope landed right on the flagpole of the ghost ship, and tied a knot there. Several figures quickly slid down the rope and landed on the flagpole not long later. One of the gods undid and tugged the rope. The rope fell down from the moon in the sky and tunneled into his sleeve like a spirit snake. From the moon to the ground was 100,000 miles, yet when this rope tunneled into his sleeve, it didn't bulge out at all. This god stored the rope and bowed to another youth. That youth nodded his head, and the few of them leaped down from the flagpole and onto the mast. They jumped down the mast like leopards and slipped into the ghost ship. They came down from the sky. Could they be gods from the sky map? That's not right. The gods of the sky map are left there by the extraterritorial celestial heavens to pull the wool over the eyes of the people. They have a responsibility to uphold and won't leave their position. Qin Mu's heart stirred slightly. In that case, they are visitors from the celestial heavens. Strange, Luo Wushuang's spirit elite guards are also from the extraterritorial celestial heavens, so why didn't they come together? At the same time, a huge star appeared in the sky, and that star was like an apple that had a chunk bitten out of it. It was the abnormal star of crimson light. The light of the abnormal star flashed, and a beam of red light descended down from the sky. The light hit the deck of the ghost ship, and when the light dissipated, Crimson Light Son of God's figure appeared there. Crimson Light Son of God has also arrived. Qin Mu said with a smile, "Village chief, Crimson Light Son of God is a friend and not a foe. I also know one-armed divine knife Luo Wushuang. That phoenix is also a big sister that I know. I've also met that elder with the dragon head scepter once, and he is called Ancestral Dragon King. We aren't in any danger even if we go in." Village chief stared at him with a black face, and had an unpleasant gaze. Crimson Light Son of God might not be a friend. Also, that phoenix should be a subordinate of Mother Earth, right? As for one-armed divine knife, I've heard of his reputation in Supreme Emperor Heaven, and he's clearly an enemy. As for Ancestral Dragon King, he should be the leader among the half-gods, right? You have met him. Bullshit. Not one of the people that entered the ship can be trusted. The ghost ship started to shake more and more. Numerous hook snakes got ripped apart, dying unnaturally. The other hook snakes hurriedly took back their barbs, and the ghost ship sailed upstream. Its speed grew faster and faster. Village chief saw the situation, and he hesitated. "What is that jade pendant of yours?" Qin Mu said, "It might be a commander's seal to control this ship, but I don't dare to confirm it." Village chief gritted his teeth and said, "Let's go in to take a look. This ship is definitely extraordinary, otherwise, it wouldn't have attracted so many powers. If I don't go in to investigate, I will never have a good night's sleep for the rest of my life." Qin Mu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Village chief was even more curious than him. Even if the commander's seal wasn't an object to control the ghost ship, he wouldn't be able to resist investigating. The reason he hesitated was that he was still worried about Qin Mu's safety, thus, he couldn't make a decision. Dragon-rearing sovereign hurriedly swam towards the ghost ship, and Qin Mu took out the commander's seal. The commander's seal vibrated the black gas chains away, and allowed them to land on the ship. Both of them jumped down from Dragon-rearing sovereign's head, and Dragon-rearing sovereign transformed into a dragon-headed god. He examined his surroundings carefully. The deck of the ship was very wide, and it was like a small-scale landmass. All kinds of buildings were present, and there was also air here. The river water hadn't seeped through, and the deck was very dry. "Mua, follow me closely, don't run around recklessly." Just as village chief said that, he saw Qin Mu walking in front of him and hurriedly followed after him. He said in a low voice, "Don't be reckless, follow me, I'm experienced." The speed of the ghost ship grew faster and faster. It sailed through the bottom of the river, and all kinds of dragon palaces flashed past so quickly that they couldn't see them clearly. The ship started creaking, and with such a fast speed, the ship seemed like it could break apart at any time. "Where's this ship heading? Why is the speed so fast? Mua, be careful." Village chief suddenly stretched out his hands to stop Qin Mu, and he signaled. "There's a seal under your feet. Don't step on it." Qin Mu lowered his head, and saw the black gas chains forming strange seals on the deck. The seal was circular, and the structure was complicated. It had the form of a tortoise and a snake. "This is North Deity's seal." He felt a lingering fear in his heart. "There's also a seal here." Dragon-rearing sovereign cried out. When Qin Mu walked over to look, he saw that the seal which Dragon-rearing sovereign had discovered was a seal of the green dragon. It must have been left behind by East Deity. "There's also one over here." They soon discovered even more seals on the deck. Some seals had the form of a vermilion bird, and some seals had the form of a white tiger. The seals of the four deities had actually appeared on this ship. The four deities of the ancient gods working together to seal this ship, it's definitely strange. Village chief muttered and said, "It definitely is extraordinary for this ship to be sealed by the four deities together. Let's try not to touch them." Right at this moment, astonished cries came from the front. Ancestral Dragon King and the rest had already undone a seal on the deck, and they saw a pitch-black coffin growing out of the deck. The black coffin had indeed looked like it was growing out. Furthermore, it was growing taller and taller until it was about 300 yards tall. There was also black gas shrouding it, and the black chains were like black-colored pythons. They knotted up to lock the coffin. The feathered forest guards and the imperial guards of Celestial Emperor are top-notch gods that have been chosen from the world. Ancestral Dragon King raised his hand, and his dragon head scepter landed in his hand. He tapped the center of the knot and said solemnly, "Mother Earth once unwittingly let out a secret. During the ancient Dragon Han era, Celestial Empress was assaulted, and the feathered forest guards boarded a battleship to quell the rebellion. In the end, the feathered forest guards suddenly went missing in the midst of quelling the rebellion. The strongest army in the Dragon Han celestial heavens vanished into thin air just like that. This became an unsolvable mystery of the Dragon Han celestial heavens. The black gas chains were undone, and the black coffin let out a deflating sound as tainted air leaked out from it. A half-god at the side suddenly let out a miserable shriek, and his feet rotted into pus. Soon, he turned into a pile of rotting flesh and gave off stinky gas. Yet he still hadn't died. His face laid on the rotting flesh, and he gave off miserable screams. Fear grew in everyone's heart, and they hurriedly held their breaths. Some distance away, Qin Mu had also planned to see if he could grow a black coffin, but he stopped when he saw what had happened. Ancestral Dragon King waved his hands to get rid of the corpse poison. He tapped the screaming half-god and killed him. Staring at the black coffin, he said, "Celestial Emperor sent numerous experts to search this ship for the feathered forest guards, yet they always failed. However, this ship and the feathered forest guards in this ship kept appearing in the celestial river for the next few 100,000 years. They would suddenly appear and suddenly vanish again." Scratching sounds came from the black coffin, as though there was something clawing the lid of the coffin from the inside. Ancestral Dragon King gripped his dragon head scepter tightly and said, "There were also rumors of this ship during the Crimson Light era. I've heard that this ship would frequently appear on the celestial river, and there were even people who saw the awe-inspiring sight of tens of thousands of gods on the ship. During the High Emperor era, this ship would also frequently appear. Mother Earth also investigated it once, but it was a pity that she couldn't find the ship nor the Imperial guards that had gone missing with the ship." The coffin lid suddenly dropped to the ground with a bang. Everyone looked at the coffin, and couldn't see anything inside as it was pitch black. Rumors say that there's a huge secret hidden on this ship, a secret that could travel through time. Ancestral Dragon King's mouth was parched, and his voice sounded hoarse. Rumors say that whoever controls this ship can travel through time, going to whichever year they want. 2 red spots of light appeared in the dark coffin, and they looked like red lanterns. Part 317 and 318 end here. Thank you for watching.